Can I get a hand? Perfect. Good morning, everybody. It's so great to see you in person finally. I am so excited. I am extroverted off the charts, and my husband is introverted the other way. So I love to be out and see all my fellow farmers. So this is amazing. My kids asked me last night before I came, they're like, where are you off to tomorrow, Mommy? And I said, well, I'm going to the Sask Symposium. And my 7-year-old, his name is Copeland. So you know you're a farmer when you get your kid's name from the seed guidebook. He's named after barley, and he loves to party. But he looked at me, and I thought he was going to ask, like, what is a symposium? But he made dead eye contact with me, and he said, you're bringing bacon home, right? And I thought, you know, if I get paid in bacon, I've made it. That's amazing. So thank you so much for having me on a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and that is mental health and stress in agriculture. I didn't know a lot about mental health 10 or 15 years ago, but through my family and I's journey, we've learned a lot and are hoping to spread that knowledge and awareness to all of those within agriculture to help break barriers and get those resources to our farmers. So now before I start my presentation, I'd like you to think of a number from 1 being low and 10 being high. Think of what your stress, that number might be. Last year at this time, I would say from 1 to 10, my stress level was probably at a 12, going through crop loss, drought, life loss, and then at this time I was writing very large checks to grain companies to buy out our grain contracts. But this year is a little bit better. We had a good year on the farm, but I get quite nervous speaking in front of crowds, so I would say my number right now is at about 5 or 6, but as I share, that number gets a little bit lower. But think of that number, that could be today, or it could be the last couple months, the last maybe year, or even through the pandemic. Think of what that number would be for you, and hold that number close as I share more into my presentation. So thank you so much for having me. I have the opportunity to do a few cool and amazing things in my short life. I manage our 7,000-acre grain farm just south of Saskatchewan here, Watrous. If you're looking for some self-care activities, we do have the Manitou Spa, just a plug for my hometown. After graduating from university, the U of S, my dad called me and he said, hey, I'd love to have a value add for the farm. So then after a couple years of product research, market development, we launched a snack food company, and we're selling that snack food across Western Canada. And then I started to dive into my marketing career. I love marketing and communication, so that I saw the disconnect with selling our snack food to the general public. So I thought, hey, if I could help and share our farm story on social media, I thought that would be a cool thing to do. So I started the blog called High Heels in Canola Fields, and then a podcast called What the Farm, where we bring on people from various different experiences and backgrounds to tell their story, and so we can learn from each other. I'm on the Sask Wheat board, so I have the opportunity to learn from other farmers and those within the industry. But one of the things that is near and dear to my heart is co-founding Do More Ag. And that happened about 4 years ago because we saw the need and the stories. We heard stories of our fellow farmers going through a hard time, and when we looked for resources, it was hard to find them. And we realized of the barriers that our farmers were facing. So we co-founded Do More Ag with the hopes of spreading awareness, building community, and bringing resources to our farmers. Sorry. So here is my family. So I farm with my husband and my brother, and every person that you see in this photo is living with a mental health challenge or has gone through a mental health struggle in their life. And I share that as it doesn't define who we are, but it's made us into the special and the unique and the gifted people that we are. So the girl on the left, that's my younger sister. She's an amazing member of her community. She is a paramedic and a nurse, and she lives with borderline personality disorder. My dad in the blue, he battled cancer, and when he was living with cancer, he was also struggling with anxiety and depression. My brother in the black shirt, who is an amazing dad, coach, volunteer firefighter, he came upon a tragic accident on our Saskatchewan roads a few years ago and lives with PTSD and anxiety because of it. My husband in the plaid, he lives with anxiety and panic attacks, mainly attributed to farm stress. And then myself, I'm holding Copeland, and after we had Copeland, I suffered through postpartum depression. So my family has gone through some really hard struggles, and when this photo was taken, we didn't know a lot about mental health. We didn't know how to talk about mental health. We didn't know how to bring it up. We didn't know how to ask. We didn't know how to take care of each other and ourselves. But by learning more and having this journey, doing some baby steps each and every year, it's helped our family and our farm come closer and stronger because of those steps. So now I'm going to share a little bit more about stress in agriculture. You know, I love to farm. I love this career. I love the lifestyle. But we do go through some unique stressors and challenges when it comes to our mental health. So a recent farm management study, they found that 62% of farmers were categorized as having mid-stress scores and 14% with high stress scores. So over 75% of us have gone through some really high stress moments and challenges. And given the landscape, the weather over the last couple of years, these stress scores might have been even higher. They also found that women were more likely to report higher stress. And this was surprising to me because I always thought, you know, it was our male counterparts, our male colleagues, seeing my dad go through some hard times, my husband live with anxiety and those panic attacks, but they found that women have more stress. And this was mainly due to finances, workload, the unpredictability factors, family conflict, and farm transition. They also found that younger farmers show signs of higher stress and are generally less effective at coping with stress. And these numbers, the younger farmers, the women, the high stress, these numbers are my family. So my hope is by sharing my story that and the things that we've done, it will help us weather the storms for other producers who are going through these storms as well. So now I'm going to share with you some of the things that my family and myself that we've learned, that we've done to help weather that storm and go through those moments of very, very high stress. So now that we're talking about stress, I always like to show this video. Did anyone watch The Office during the pandemic? Oh, I got a couple hands. Okay, so I love The Office, and when my husband and I were binge watching one night and the fire drill came up, we looked at each other and we said, oh my goodness, this is our farm. So I like to show this clip as a quirky little video as to how each and every one of us, we go through stress differently. No sound? Okay, that's okay. Is it a quick fix? If I wanted to be stopped on a video and that was my face, my stress scores would be high as well. Poor Dwight. Well, thank you very much. Right now, I think it's the video, or I can't press play. Do you want me to keep going? Oh, yeah, thank you.
Last week I gave a fire safety talk, and nobody paid any attention. It's my own fault for using PowerPoint. PowerPoint is boring. People learn in lots of different ways, but experience is the best teacher. Today, smoking is going to save lives. Does anyone smell anything smoky?
Did you bring your jerky in again?
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Fire!
Oh, fire! Oh my goodness! What's the procedure? What do we do, people?
The phones are dead!
Oh, how did that happen?
Down in the hall!
No, we don't know that. The smoke could be coming through an air duct.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure? No, no, Michael, no! Touch the handle. If it's hot, there could be a fire in the hallway.
What does warm mean?
Oh my gosh, try to open the door.
Not a viable option. What next?
Don't run!
The other door.
Oh, here's a door. Check that one out. How's the handle?
It's warm. Okay, go to the back
Well,
door.
another option. Another option. Jeez, okay, settle down, everyone. No
I
tension.
forgot my purse!
Leave it, woman!
Get out of the way. Go, go,
No,
go.
things can be replaced, Phyllis. People, human lives, however, can...
Ah, my hand. That's hot.
This one's hot too!
Okay, we're trapped. Everyone for himself.
Okay.
Let's go. Let's go. Get out of my way.
Okay. Have you ever seen a burn victim? Okay. Procedure. Exit options. Where do we go, folks? Use a what to cover the mouth? A what? A rag. A damp rag, perhaps. Let's remember those procedures. What are the options? Okay. That's the wrong way. We've already tried that. Remember your exit points. Exit points, people. What's next? Huh?
Stay alive. I'm getting help.
Pull me out!
You're too heavy.
I only weigh 82 pounds! Save Bandit!
How about 911? Anyone? 911.
What do we do?
Use the surge of fear and adrenaline to sharpen your decision making.
Okay, I am not dying here. Come on.
What is that? What is that?
The fire's shooting at us!
What in the name of God is going
Oh my God!
Attention! Employees of Dunder Mifflin! This has been a test of our emergency preparedness. There is no fire, it was only a simulation.
What?
Fire, not real, this was merely a training exercise. So, what have we learned? Oh, come on, it's not real.
I can watch that and like hundreds of times and still laugh, but a short little video of a fun video of how stress looks and feels differently for each and every one of us. And I promise no cats were harmed, or I hope no cats were harmed. But when my husband and I watched this, I was like, yeah, I think I'm the looter. And Matt's like, I think I'm Stan. So it just shows how we all go through stress differently. But talking about what stress is and learning more about what stress can do for us. So stress is a normal response to situational pressures or demands, and it's part of everyday life. I remember my science teachers refer to it as that fight, flight, or freeze. It's when hormones are released into our body, our blood pressure rises, heart rate increases, and as well as our blood sugar. But what I've also learned, outside of the physical things that happen within our body, is that stress is a feeling. You can walk into a room and feel that stress if tensions are high. And there's also that physical tension. My husband will walk by if I'm, typing an email, and he'll touch my shoulders, and they'll be hard. And that's that physical stress, that tension. And what I've also learned is stress is a cycle, similar to that bell curve. That stress, we go through that stress cycle, and it has a beginning, and it has a middle, and it has an end. But is all stress harmful and negative? No. Good stress, or small amounts of stress, it helps to motivate us. It helps us to, kick us into gear to accomplish tasks, do things. But where it can become an issue is when it's prolonged, high amounts of stress, overwhelming, and we don't give ourselves the opportunity to recover and charge. That's where it can become an issue, where we have high chances of mental health challenges or even physical illnesses. So stress isn't bad for us. But getting stuck in that stress cycle, getting stuck in that middle or the beginning, that's where it can become harmful. So signs and symptoms of stress can vary depending on who you are, your life experiences, what you're going through. Here are some physical and emotional and mental signs and symptoms that I saw within my family. So I get tension headaches. I wear a mouth guard. I grind my teeth. I saw my husband, have chest pain, that beating heart. And then on the emotional and the mental front, I saw, an increased irritability within my husband. When his anxiety was really high, the odd wrench was being thrown at the farm, which was quite outside of his typical self. I saw, that impatience, that frustration, those angry blow-ups. And then I saw a change in his eating, in his diet, in his sleeping patterns, and that forgetfulness, the procrastination, the lack of concentration, and just the not being able to do things. So he would get into a tractor and not be able to even turn the key, just so overwhelmed with that anxiety and that stress that it prevented him from doing activities. So the things that we've learned when it comes to stress is know what your signs and symptoms are, know what your normal is, and know what those around you, what their normals and what their signs and symptoms are. It might be different, but knowing that can help take note and start to have conversations around stress on the farm and their mental health. So stressors, we go through lots of stressors in farming. Here's a list, and it might depend on, the type of farm that we are, or what's going on, weather, markets, finances, isolation, employees, labor, the pressures of farming. I heard that among lots of young farmers, the succession planning, and then also everyday stressors, things in everyday life, those critical life events. So learning about stress really helped us. And the second thing that we learned, and this is the tea in this storm, is we learned to then, so you know about your stress, you know what your normal is, what can you do? And the next thing that you can do is to take action. And you can take action by knowing how you react to that stress. And I share this story of my husband who he taught me about my stress and how all of our stress can be different. Just like how our signs and symptoms might be different, so is our stress. So there was one night that I flew into Toronto. I had a layover or a connection, and I had to stay overnight. But I didn't get into Toronto until very late. It was a long day, so I was quite tired. And I got to my hotel room, I think it was around 10, and I thought, okay, my flight leaves quite early, that I am going to hop in the shower, I'm going to have a shower, and then get room service. So I checked in, and I should be in bed by 11. And so I checked into my room, and I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to call for room service before I hop into the shower, so when I get out of the shower, my food will be there. And so I did that, hopped out of the shower, and I opened the door to my hotel room, and I saw that my food was there, but it was a good, like, 2 big Lesley steps away from the door. And I thought, well, that's kind of odd, but I'm not going to go back and get my key. I'm just going to hold my towel ever so eloquently and try to reach for my food. But I didn't realize that in some hotels, that when the door gets to a certain spot, there's a kickback. And as I was reaching, the door started to close, and it got to that point where it did the kickback. And it kicked me. And it kicked me so good, kicked me in the butt, where I flew forward, my towel went down, and I blocked out of my room. But no one was in the hallway. So I was like, okay, that's not bad. My stress went from like a 5 to it's probably like a 7 now, because I realized, my key is in my room. So I thought, okay, no big deal. I'll just go to the elevator and I'll phone down to the lobby. And I love this hotel because there is a hotel where the elevators are. There is that phone where the elevators are. But in this Toronto hotel, there was no phone to phone down to the lobby or the front desk, because I guess we have cell phones, but my cell phone is in my room. So I thought, okay, now I got to go down to the lobby, and I'm half naked, so no big deal. Got down to the lobby, 10:30. Stress is about 9. And I was thinking no one was going to be there. But knowing my luck for that night, not only were there some people there, a bus had come with a family, like families. So there were little kids and bigger kids. And I thought, oh my goodness. So I stood in the back and I thought, okay, so I'm going to try to get the attention of the front desk manager, even though the lobby is loud and everything. So I did my good old Saskatchewan girl yodel. And I did the yoo-hoo, and not only did I get his attention, I got everyone else in the lobby's attention. So they all looked, and I was at about 11 then, so I thought, oh, and I get bright red, so it was as red as an apple. And I thought he would say, oh, you look like you're 11. I'm gonna come and chat with you. And he said, oh no, half-naked, dripping wet lady, come to the front desk. So I made my walk of shame, holding my towel, to the front desk. And the kids, they pointed. And there were some laughs and snickers. So I got to the front, and I don't know if it's just maybe Toronto or if it was that type of hotel, but when I shared my experience, I'm locked out of my room, I'm dripping wet. The guy, he was like, okay, well, where's your ID? And I was like, my what? Like, my ID? I'm Lesley Kelly in room 772. And he's like, no, I need your ID to get into your room. And I was like, am I, like, you think I'm a robber? Like, is this a tactic that people use? They come in naked to try to get into a room? And so security came, and I was escorted with security up to my room. And I did show them my ID. But by then, I was a 15, and I was out for blood. And who do I call when I'm out for blood? I phoned my husband. So I shared with him my story, and do you know what he did? He laughed. He laughed at me. He thought it was the best thing ever, because now I realize what my 15 walking through half naked in a hotel lobby would have done to me. For him, he would have loved it. The chance to walk down or walk through the lobby half naked in front of the women. Like, it would have been like a 3. It would have been like the best moment of his life. But then I realized, oh yeah, like our stress and what we go through might be totally different than someone else. And then he told me to relax. And that's something that we're still happily married, but I did go from a 15 to about a 17 when he told me to relax. So we've learned to better communicate with each other since then. But then I've done the same thing to him, where he's phoned me in the tail end of harvest. Snow is coming, and one of the combines busts a rim. Phones me, and I tell him to relax. And, it'll be okay. And for me, that would have been a 7, but for him, a good 15. So knowing how we each go through stress very differently, how our mental health is different, how our journeys are different, how our stress is different, has really helped us within our family and within our farm. And I like to share this video. I hope it works. I share this video wherever I go because Kelly made such an impactful moment in my life. So I met Kelly on the Bell Let's Talk campaign, where we're both friends. We had the opportunity to be part of the campaign, and we were out in Montreal doing the video and the photo shoot. And I had the opportunity to sit down and have supper with her after the day. And the cool thing is, she had never met a farmer before. And I had never sat down and had supper with someone who has fought for our country. So she is a veteran. She went over to Afghanistan, fought for our country, now is a Toronto policewoman. And it was one of those experiences where she told me her incredible and heroic story. And when she looked at me and said, well, Lesley, what's your story? And I felt I didn't have a story. I felt that my story didn't matter compared to hers. And this is what she told me in that moment.
I'd been in the Army for, I think at that time it was about 3 years. And when I was 19, I deployed to Afghanistan for a 7.5-month tour of duty. And I was having nightmares, trouble sleeping, difficulty engaging people. So finally I went and saw a doctor and was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress injury and a major depressive disorder and an anxiety disorder. When I first came public with my injury, I had a lot of people come up to me and they would say, yeah, I struggled with mental health injuries, or someone I know struggles. And then they would say, oh, but it's nothing like what you went through. And you kind of just really have to take the step back and realize that mental health is not a competition. People drown in oceans, and people drown in pools, and people drown in bathtubs. And everyone just has to stop worrying about how much water someone's drowning in and just focus on the fact that someone's drowning. And whether or not it's someone in society or themselves, they have to worry a lot less about what it is they're drowning in and just focus on the fact that they need to be able to breathe again.
So that's what she shared with me in that moment. She looked at me and looked into my eyes and said, Lesley, your story matters. What you went through matters. Your feelings matter. Because people, doesn't matter they're the size of the ocean or the size of the bathtub. It's helping each other, knowing that we all matter, our stories matter, and to help each other breathe again. So the next thing that we learned on the farm, and this leads me into my third strategy, my third point, is all about open communication. We didn't know a lot about mental health. We didn't know how to talk about mental health. We didn't know how to bring it up, just in the part of, well, I don't want to upset them. I don't want to, the fear of the unknown. But learning more about how open communication can be so beneficial in both life-saving, life-changing for ourselves, and then it can help the farm so much. So we learned that if we didn't talk about it, the stress could spill over into our relationships, it can negatively impact us, and it can even further deteriorate our communication. So the things that we've learned on our farm is to learn how to talk about mental health, and knowing that this stress, when we're dealing with it together, when we're talking about stress together, it can help go through that stress cycle. So we've learned how to talk, we've learned how to listen, and we've learned how to support each other through those stressful moments. So when it comes to talking about mental health, I learned that even sharing those signs and those symptoms and a gentle opening, a gentle question can really be life-saving. Just a simple sentence. Sentences like, would you like to talk about it? You want to go for a drive or for a walk? My husband loves that. Want to go for a drive because he loves the therapeutic aspect of getting into his truck, rolling down his windows, maybe not in -30, but rolling down his windows, cranking up his music, and going for a drive on country roads. To him, that is part of his self-care. I've been thinking about you a lot. How are you doing? What's on your mind at the moment? What are you struggling with the most at the moment? What's helping you cope? How are you holding up? Is everything okay? Some simple questions that can really be life-saving for someone. And then this leads into the supportive statement. So after you've asked someone the question of how they are doing, the next best thing that you can do is show that you can care. or show that you do care. And I always thought that I was a caring person, but with my husband and his anxiety, I didn't really understand what he was living with. And I would say things like, you should have done this, you could have done this, what about this, knowing that that was having a negative impact. So I changed my approach, and I started to say things like this, I'm happy to listen if you want to talk. That sounds really hard, that sounds really difficult. I'm sorry that you're going through this. I'm proud of you. I believe you. I might not see it, I might not understand, but I believe you. Life-saving right there, because we sometimes feel that we have to prove that we have that pain. And when it comes to mental health, there shouldn't be that barrier. What I admire about you in this moment is, and then how can I help? What can I do to support you in this moment? What can I do right now? Some small statements that can make big impacts. And the next thing that I learned was listening. Listening can also be can have such a huge impact on someone. And I thought that listening was just with the ears. I'm listening to what you're saying, but listening is so much more than that. Listening is with your ears, your eyes, your mind, and your heart. Helping that person feel seen and understood, asking them questions to try to understand, being curious. I always thought that I had to have the answers and give advice, and that prevented me from starting these conversations. But now knowing that I don't have to have the answers, I don't have to have the advice. Sometimes someone just needs that ear to listen. That can be life-saving. And I know how it can be life-saving because when we first started Do More, we were on a panel. And we were sharing our journeys, and I shared my family's story. And in that room, there was about 400 farmers. But before we started, they put up all those chairs, and I thought, if 6 farmers come to this panel, it was when we first started to talk about mental health. I said, if just 6 come, it'll be so great and so worthwhile. And when they opened the doors, so many farmers came, and every chair in that room was filled, that there was even farmers standing at the back and down the middle of the aisles. And as I was sharing, there was a farmer, he was about 65, 70, and he was wearing a hat, and he had his hat down, and he was emotional during that talk, and you could feel that emotion. You could hear his cries. And afterwards, after everyone had left, he came up to us and he said, I'd like to thank you. And we said, well, why? And he said, you just saved my life. I'm going to go home and talk to my wife. He didn't have to share his story. He was just in that room and he listened to what another person's journey was. And he felt their strength, and he knew that it was okay to go through what he was going through and those feelings, and that there was help. So I know how listening can be life-changing for me, life-saving for him. And then for me, it's all about that support. I'm a fix, solver, and saver. So my husband would come and I'd be like, do this, and this is what helped me, and just think positively, and you should have done that. But then I didn't realize that wasn't the support he was looking for. So 95% of the time, it was the emotional support that he was looking for. So now what I do is when someone reaches out and is looking for help, I always ask the question, are you looking for that emotional support, for someone to listen, or do you need that practical support and problem solve? Because I can be there and help you through this. And then checking in, depending on their preference, it has really helped us too, on their method of communication. So that leads into 4, and that's the R, and that's all about relationships. And so on the farm, we have conflict, and we have a lot of conflict. We have fights, we have arguments, and I would come in, being new, this is about a decade new on the farm, that I was looking at the, right versus wrong, you versus me, my way or the highway. But now we've changed the culture on the farm to process those arguments in a win-win kind of way. So for us, it's all about that open communication and dialogue. So we process disagreements with acceptance, understanding, gentleness, curiosity, and empathy. And I always like to put the picture of my husband and I driving, because 99% of our arguments are when he is trying to park and I'm trying to tell him where to drive or how to drive. And some of our arguments aren't a win-win in those situations. But on the farm, we We look at our arguments or our conflict as repair attempts. Just like when it comes to our equipment, we are always servicing it, we're always repairing it, and the same goes for our relationships, even more so for our relationships. And we need to do these things to help keep our relationships intact and maintain them for the future. So the repair attempts that we do on the farm is that we express our appreciation a lot. You know, the thank yous and apologizing. It can be so hard, especially when I'm not wrong. But apologizing for maybe those impacts or things that we can learn from and do differently. We find those compromises and agreements. We use humor a lot on the farm, just depending on the situation. We ask for direction, we take responsibility, and we make commitments. And that has really changed the culture wholeheartedly on our farm. So we process, conflict will happen, but we do it through dialogue. And these are a few things. So we built culture on our farm. We have about 13 guiding principles, and these are just a few of them of how we communicate, how we work together, and how we really put mental health as an agenda on the farm. So we value each other's opinions, we hold each other and ourselves accountable, we're open to coaching and feedback, and we have fun. And then my last point in the STORM strategy that we use, and this really goes in and leads into how we take care of each other and ourselves, all about the stress management. And we didn't know a lot about mental health on the farm, and it was my dad who really set the tone of the culture on the farm. And when we moved back about 10 years ago, we were really excited, you know, starting the transition. It's like, we want to buy land, we want to buy fancy, nice new equipment, we want to do this. And my dad saw us go in all different directions, you know, different goals, different ways of doing business. And he told us during one of our first succession planning meetings, and it was this. And he said, if you want to be successful, it isn't about how much land you have or the type of equipment you drive. It's all about how we work together and how we take care of each other and ourselves. And that was really the moment on our farm where we redefined what success looked like. I thought success looked like that bottom number at the end of the year. And for us, it wasn't. And it's all about the culture and helping each other and ourselves. And unfortunately, my dad passed away from cancer a couple years ago. But we are so fortunate and so blessed to have all these words of wisdom and these lessons and having his legacy as part of our culture and how we will be successful in the future generations of our farm. So leading into self-care, so when we first started talking about self-care on the farm, my husband said, "Oh, Lesley, don't make us do bubble baths and yoga." And I thought, well, that's what I like, and that's part of what my self-care tactics might be. But then that's when we realized that self-care, also like how your stress is different and how your mental health is different, so is your self-care. So your self-care could be yoga, bubble baths, journaling, and meditating. And it also could be going to therapy, doing something you've been avoiding for a long time, doing your favorite activity in peace, mindful movement, practicing positive self-talk, unfollowing social media accounts, or distancing yourself from individuals that make you feel uncomfortable, going for a drive or walk. So self-care can be and look and feel different for all of us. And so what we call self-care on the farm is we call it filling up your slip tank. I'm one of the gophers on the farm. So during harvest and seeding, I go for food, I go for parts, I go for children, I go for people, and I also go and help service the equipment. And if I know that if my slip tank is empty, I can't go and help service other equipment. And the same goes for us. So these are the things that have really helped us on our farm, is we take breaks to recover and recharge. Our busy season is the harvest and seeding, and our breaks might look different. They might be 5 minutes during those moments, or they might be 5 hours or 5 days, depending on the season. But just giving and understanding that we need those breaks has really been beneficial for us. Physical exercise, I love to cross-country ski. Matt loves to play hockey, which has really helped us. Breathing exercises. Matt does breathing exercises in the cab of a tractor. I do them in the office, but they really, even 3D breaths can really help. Positive connections, like what we're doing today. positive connections with your neighbors, your friends, your family, just your people that you can vent to, that understand your world, that can help be there for when you go through great moments and also those hard moments. Laughter and affection, we call them dance fights in the house because I have 2 young boys, and dance parties always end in dance fights or someone wrestling or someone crying, and it's usually my husband. But doing things together that help us smile and laugh together has really helped us. Creative expression, that might be just something that you do to help you express yourself. For me, I love to cook. For Matt, he loves to woodwork. So just some great hobbies that you can do in peace that help you express yourself. Paying it forward, I love to give back to our community. And then my family and I, we've also sought professional help, both individually and within our marriage and within our farm. And then my dad always said, this has really helped us during those hard moments. And a piece of advice he said was always think of 1 or 2 or 3 positive things to get you out of a negative or hard situation, and you will move forward very fast. And it was hard last summer when we lost him, and we had barely any crop to harvest. And we, it was so hard on so many fronts, but we thought, hey, well, we don't have many grain bags. I guess that's good in February. And we are done harvest in August versus in November, so we have lots of family time together. And those things were there. Sometimes they were just really hard to find, but we did find some really great moments out of last year. Thank you. And here are some resources. The resources are vast and they're wide throughout Canada. The mental health line is new, 988, if you are going through a mental health crisis or someone else. These are just some resources that my family and I have used in the past. Do More Egg has a list of all these resources and are doing some incredible things through workshops for farmers, those within agriculture, trying to break barriers, and to also mental health professionals. So if you're looking for a workshop or any services, resources, you can find them at the Do More site. My family and I we've also taken mental health first aid and the assisted training. And then we're also subscribers of the BetterHelp, the iBreathe, and the Calm app. So 5 strategies that my family and I have done to weather the storm. The first is we learned all about stress. We talk about stress. We use that number in front or as part of our team meetings and our family team meetings. We learn about each other's number, because if I know my husband's at a 10 or if my brother's at an 8, and then we have those conversations of, hey, well, what's causing that 10 or what's causing that 8? How can we help? What can we do? And it's really opened up learning more about stress and having those open communication conversations and taking action. Processing conflict, helping each other in those relationships with empathy, curiosity, and then looking for ways to fill up our slip tank. So 5 small things that we've done over the last 10 years that have changed the culture on the farm and how we've taken care of each other and ourselves. Sorry, there it is. So to wrap things up, please know that we will weather storms, and it's great if you can weather the storm together with someone. And the storms might be dark, the storms might be hard, but there is light and there is sunshine at the end of those storms. My family is a testament, I'm a testament to being able to weather the storm and seeing the light and the laughter and the love. And I wish you all the joy and health and happiness in the next year and in the future. And please know that you can connect with us if you have any questions at Do More Egg. Thank you so much for your time and your energy. I'm so very grateful for the opportunity to share my family and I's story with you today. Thank you so much.